Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome. Today's topic is the 1907 Cleveland Naps AL MLB baseball season. Again, the Naps were playing in the American League, the junior circuit. This was the seventh year for the American League as a major league. And then there was the other Major League Baseball had the other league as well, the National League, which had been around for 33 years, therefore the senior circuit. And no interleague play, that each league had 8 teams, and then they'd play. The World Series was ongoing, so the champions of each league would play each other in the World Series, and there was no playoffs. If you finished in first in each 8-team league, you're in the World Series. Again, the Naps were playing home games in Cleveland at League Park, East 66th and Lexington Avenue in Cleveland, and they had a fine year, an outstanding year, 1907. Cleveland Naps finished in 4th place, record of 85-67. So that's 18 games over 500. Winning percentage of .559, very impressive. 8 games out of first place. First place team was the Detroit Tigers, who were 92-58. And this was Ty Cobb's first year, and he was their star player and really would become the best player in baseball and really challenged Napoleon Lajoie. Second place team, the Philadelphia Athletics, were 88-57. Third place, the Chicago White Sox, 87-64. Fourth place, the Cleveland Naps, 85-67. Fifth place, the New York Highlanders, 70-78, to be later renamed the New York Yankees. Sixth place, the St. Louis Browns, 69-83. Seventh place, the Boston Americans, 59-90, shortly to become the Boston Red Sox. And in eighth and last place, the Washington Senators, who were 49-102, 43 and a half games out of first. As they used to say, that Washington was first in war, first in peace, and last in the American League. And that was true in 1907. The Cleveland Naps were a contender until the last 10 days of the season when they were eliminated. Now, there's a fine book I'm reading which has been helpful in the research for these videos. It's called, the title is League Park, Historic Home of Cleveland Baseball, 1891 to 1946 by Ken Krasalovic and Brian Fritz, 2013. I highly recommend this book, fine book. Now, the Naps set another attendance record for Cleveland with a total of 382,046. Or an average of 5,027 per game. On October 2nd, there was an amateur game at League Park, a team from Vermilion against a Cleveland amateur all-star team, and the Vermilion pitcher was a lady pitcher named Alta Weiss, and 3,184 fans came to watch this, and Vermilion won. So Alta Weiss and Vermilion won, and that game 7-6. Against the Cleveland All-Star team. Now, Ty Cobb was in his actually second full season with the Detroit Tigers. He led the American League in batting average, hits, total bases, RBIs, and stolen bases. So he was the up-and-coming superstar who would replace Napoleon Lajoie as the best player in baseball. Now, the thing is, before the season, Ty Cobb was... he's a young guy. He's from the South, and some of the players were making fun of him. And he had been in conflict with teammates. And Detroit offered him in a trade to Cleveland for Elmer Flick. One-on-one deal, and the Naps turned it down. Charles Summers, the owner of the Naps, said this, quote, "We'll keep Flick. Maybe he isn't quite as good a batter as Cobb, but he's much nicer to have on the team." So that was as I mentioned in a previous video, this has been forever lamented by Cleveland sports writers because we could have had Ty Cobb in Cleveland, but anyway, this is part of life, And so Ty Cobb continued to play almost his entire season with the Detroit Tigers. Now for the Naps, the player manager was Napoleon Lajoie, who played second base and managed, and Lajoie hit .301. He had 30 doubles, 6 triples, 2 home runs, 63 RBIs, 24 stolen bases in 137 games. Lajoie was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1914, so about the middle of his time in Cleveland. He had a recurrence of blood poisoning and missed 15 games of the season. Lajoie and his wife Myrtle lived on a small farm in South Euclid, 10 miles east of League Park. There they had a flock of chickens, and they also raised dogs. Napoleon Lajoie loved large dogs in particular. Now, the Naps had a slow start. On May 8th, their record was 10-10, right at 500, and Lajoie said this, quote, "I know our work on the bases and in the field has been punk, but if we were hitting, we wouldn't look so bad at that. Any club which is clouting the ball and making the runs can pull off a lot of poor work in other departments of the game and get away with it. But when you aren't making any hits or scoring any runs, every little slip stands out like a sore thumb." My father used to use that expression, like a sore thumb. Now, the Detroit News published this in 1907, quote, "Did you ever watch Napoleon Lajoie's eyes as he talked to you? They are sharp, piercing, dark eyes, always restless. His gaze may be centered upon you, and yet you seem to feel that he can see at each side of you, maybe in back. As he talks, those eyes shoot over and around you and even through you." On July 10th, Lajoie was spiked again. Play at second base when a base runner was coming in sliding. The bones in his foot were damaged, and he missed 4 weeks, and he was sorely missed. Lajoie had this to say about his managerial style, quote, "I am, I suppose, what would be called fairly easy to my men. Ball players are generally intelligent people, and it is pretty safe to trust their welfare in their own hands. The player who fails to take care of himself is always the heaviest sufferer, and if he hasn't got interest enough in his own affairs to do this, it is doubtful the manager can compel him to. When a man is in uniform, of course, he is expected to live up to certain rules, which he does. But after the game is over, I believe in allowing a considerable amount of freedom." In 1953, many years later, when Lajoie was an older man, he said this to the Sporting News, quote, "If I had a fault, it was probably being too lenient with the players. But I always figured that once a player reached the big league, he ought to know enough to go his own way. I treated them as men, not as boys." On September 5th at League Park, they had Lajoie Day for Napoleon Lajoie's 32nd birthday, and he received a number of gifts, including a portable wooden wine chest called a cellaret, a large library, a floral horseshoe, a big Napoleon hat, a purse, and a small brown sheep. And on that day, Addie Joss was the starting pitcher, and he threw a one-hitter, and the Nats defeated the Tigers 3-0. Now, the rest of the starting lineup included Nig Clark, who was our catcher in 1907. Clark hit .269. He had 19 doubles, 6 triples, 3 home runs, 33 RBIs, 3 stolen bases in 120 games. And Clark was with Cleveland from 1905 to 1910. Nig Clark. The first baseman was George Stovall. Stovall had an off year. Stovall hit .236, 17 doubles, 6 triples, a home run, 36 RBIs, 13 stolen bases in 124 games. Stovall was with Cleveland from 1904 to 1911. Yeah, it was a tough year for him. He was in a slump. His batting average was way down. And in August, Lajoie moved Stovall from 3rd in the batting order to 8th in the lineup. And Stovall didn't appreciate that, and he lost his temper in the hotel dining room in Philadelphia. George Stovall threw a chair at Lajoie and hit Lajoie in the head. Not good. For this incident, he was fined $100 and suspended 2 weeks. George Stovall. Terry Turner was our shortstop, again in 1907. Turner hit .242, 20 doubles, 7 triples, 46 RBIs, 27 stolen bases in 140 games. And Turner was with Cleveland from 1904 to 1918. So he was still early in his time in the Forest City. Terry Turner. Bill Bradley was our third baseman again. Bradley also had a tough year. He hit .223, 20 doubles, a triple, 34 RBIs, 20 stolen bases in 139 games. Bradley was with Cleveland from 1901 to 1910. During the season, he was sick. And this was partly why his average was so low. He had a persistent high fever and complained of fatigue all season. There was a fear that he had typhoid, but I don't believe that was true. Bill Bradley. In the outfield, we had Elmer Flick, was a regular outfielder. Flick hit .302, 15 doubles, 18 triples, 3 home runs, 58 RBIs, 41 stolen bases in 147 games. Flick was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1910. In 1907, he led the league with 18 triples. Now, he reported being on the verge of physical collapse and demanded a mid-season vacation to build his strength. So this was granted. Lajoie was a fairly easygoing manager. He was granted this request and proceeded to travel to Mount Clemens, Michigan, which was a usual recuperation site for ball players in that era. He was there for a week, then returned home to his farm in Bedford, Ohio. It was reported that he went to the racetrack in Detroit, and he was criticized for this. The teammates were grumbling. There was an unhappy clubhouse because they felt Elmer Flick was getting preferential treatment. Elmer Flick. Another regular outfielder was Bill Hinchman. Hinchman hit .228, 19 doubles, 9 triples, a home run, 50 RBIs, 15 stolen bases in 152 games. Hinchman was from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He died in Columbus, Ohio in 1963 at age 79. Career average of .261, 793 hits, 369 RBIs. Hinchman played for the Cincinnati Reds, Cleveland Naps, and Pittsburgh Pirates between 1905 and 1920, and he led the National League in triples in 1916. Bill Hinchman. Another regular outfielder was Joe Birmingham. Birmingham hit .235, 10 doubles, 9 triples, a home run, 33 RBIs, 23 stolen bases in 137 games. And Birmingham was with Cleveland from 1906 to 1914. Joe Birmingham. Now on the bench, we had Harry Bemis, who was a spare catcher. Bemis hit .250, 43 hits, 7 doubles, 19 RBIs, 5 stolen bases in 65 games. And Bemis was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1910. Harry Bemis. Another bench player was Pete O'Brien, who played the infield, generally second base. O'Brien hit .228. He had 33 hits, 5 doubles, 2 triples, 6 RBIs, a stolen base in 43 games. O'Brien was from Binghamton, New York. He died in Jersey City, New Jersey in 1917 at age 39. Career average of .223 with 3 home runs and 78 RBIs. O'Brien played for the Cincinnati Reds, St. Louis Browns, Cleveland Naps, and Washington Senators between 1901 to 1907, so this was the end of his MLB career. Now in May, he stayed out all night after a game and showed up at the team hotel the next morning, and Lajoie fined him $50. He was suspended indefinitely and traded to the Senators 2 months later. So this showed that Napoleon Lajoie could discipline players who were misbehaving. Pete O'Brien. Another spare bench player was Harry Bay. Bay had a tough year. He hit .179, 17 hits, a double, a triple, 7 RBIs, 7 stolen bases in 34 games. And Bay was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1908. Harry Bay. Pete Lister played some first base. Lister hit .277, 18 hits, 2 doubles, 4 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 22 games. Lister was from Savannah, Illinois. He died in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1947 at age 65. He had his career average was .277. Well, his MLB career was just in 1907 with the Cleveland Naps. Pete Lister. Harry Hinchman played some second base. Hinchman hit .216. He had 11 hits, 3 doubles, a triple, 9 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 15 games. And Hinchman was from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He died in Toledo, Ohio in 1933 at age 54. And his MLB career was just with the Cleveland Naps in 1907. He had 18 seasons in the minor leagues. And he started with the Ilion Typewriters in 1902. His best year was 1915 with the Kansas City Blues. He hit .326. He also was a manager in the minor leagues from 1910 to 1932, and after 1923 solely a manager, so previously a player manager. Harry Hinchman. It's not clear if his brother was the other Hinchman mentioned. Frank Delahunty was another outfielder on the team. Delahunty hit 173, 9 hits, a triple, 4 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 15 games. Delahunty was from Cleveland, Ohio. He died in Cleveland in 1966 at age 83. Career average of .226 with 5 home runs and 94 RBIs. Delahunty played for the New York Highlanders, Cleveland Naps, Buffalo Buffheads, and Pittsburgh Rebels between 1905 and 1915. And his brother was the famous Ed Delahunty, who played who was from Cleveland, played 1 year for the Cleveland Infants. Now, Delahunty died in an accidental fall. One game, Delahunty showed up drunk at the ballpark and was suspended. Frank Delahunty. Another infielder was Rabbit Nill. Nill hit .279. He had 12 hits. 12 hits, including 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 12 games. Nill was from Fort Wayne, Indiana. He died in Fort Wayne in 1962 at age 80. Career average of .212 with 3 home runs and 77 RBIs. Nill played for the Washington Senators and Cleveland Naps between 1904 and 1908. Rabbit Nill. Howard Wakefield was a spare catcher. Wakefield hit .135 with 5 hits, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs in 26 games, and Wakefield played for Cleveland in 1905 and 1907. Howard Wakefield. Bunk Congleton played some outfield. Congleton hit .182 with 4 hits and 22 at-bats, 2 RBIs in 9 games. And this was Congleton played for Cleveland from 1905 to 1907, so this was the last of his 3 years in Cleveland. Bunk Congleton. Now, the pitching staff, again, was led by our ace pitcher, the incomparable Addie Joss. Joss hit .114. He had 13 hits, 3 doubles, 6 RBIs, a stolen base in 42 games. Joss's pitching record was 27-11. That's really amazing. An ERA of 1.83. Wow, 38 starts, 34 complete games, 6 shutouts, and 2 saves. Joss pitched for Cleveland from 1902 to 1910. He was the only 20-game winner on the team. He had a league-high 27 wins. On May 30th, a record crowd came to League Park, 17,316, to see Joss attempt to win his 11th straight game. Unfortunately, Joss lost to the Tigers 6-0, and Ty Cobb hit a home run. This was his best year, 1907. Before the season, in the off-season, Joss had started work as the Sunday sports editor for the Toledo News-Bee newspaper. And he had a weekly baseball column, stories from his career. Joss also joined the Freemasons in Toledo. Now, in one of the columns that he wrote, he talked about Cy Young, and he wrote this, quote, "Some people are under the impression that Denton has about outlived his usefulness, but should anyone with this impression happen to be at the plate sometime next July and see him whipping them through with the same cannonball speed and accuracy for which he is noted, most likely he would change his opinion." So he was supporting Cy Young. Another story, he talked about Red Donahue in 1904 in spring training in San Antonio, Texas. And Donahue was pitching for Cleveland against an amateur team. He was taking it easy that day and getting hit pretty hard. And a fan said to him, quote, "Oh, Red, you are too easy." And Donahue responded, quote, "Easy, eh? Well, I ain't half as easy as you are. You gave up $50 to see me pitch today." Addie Joss believed that the number 13 was lucky. He also believed that if you met a cross-eyed person, it was bad luck. A barrel of hay, however, was good luck. And when the players were traveling together, if they saw a barrel of hay, they would raise their hats in unison. They thought that would help them win that day. The contract offer that Addie Joss received in the off-season for 1907 was $3,100, which included a $400 raise. However, there was no $500 bonus if he won 20 games. So overall, if he won 20 games, the contract was a reduction of $100. And Joss returned the contract unsigned. He did not appreciate it. He became a holdout. He wrote in the sports page in his column, quote, "I have not heard anything from Cleveland and will stick right here in Toledo. I haven't been in communication with the club and therefore do not know what I am going to do. This holdout business is something new for me, but I am not bluffing." The public supported Joss, and a meeting was set on March 9th between Addie Joss and the two owners, Charles Summers and John Kilfoyle, in Cleveland, and they had a resolution. His new salary was $4,000, so that was a happy ending, and he earned that money. Joss covered the World Series for the Cleveland Press after the season, and he wrote this, quote, "Of all the baseball players in the land," well, the press wrote this about Addie Joss and his, before he did his writing. "Of all the players in the land, Addie Joss is far and away the best qualified for the work. A scholarly man, an entertaining writer, an impartial observer of the game, the readers of the press will be assured of reports of thrilling interest." So for 3 years, Addie Joss covered the World Series for the newspapers, for the Cleveland Press, and Joss had this to say during the World Series, I believe the following year, quote, "A tremendous throng cheered the Tigers to the echo as they ambled gracefully out on the field for practice this afternoon, preliminary to the fourth game with the Chicago Cubs for the World's Championship. After the victory of the Tigers yesterday at Chicago, the most faint-hearted man in the bunch plucked up courage and saw a chance for the bird of victory to perch on Detroit's roost." Joss's stories were picked up by the United Press and syndicated across the country, and it was believed he had a very bright future as a writer. Addie Joss. The second pitcher in the rotation was Bob Dusty Rhodes. Rhodes batted .185. He had 17 hits, 2 doubles, 6 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 35 games. Rhodes' pitching record was 15-14 with an ERA of 2.29, 31 starts, 23 complete games, 5 shutouts, and a save. And Rhodes was with Cleveland from 1903 to 1909. Bob Dusty Rhodes. Glenn Liebhardt was third in the rotation. Liebhardt batted .161. He had 14 hits, 2 doubles, a triple, 6 RBIs in 38 games. And Liebhardt's pitching record was 18-14 with a fine ERA of 2.05, 34 starts, 27 complete games, 4 shutouts, and a save. And Liebhardt was with Cleveland from 1906 to 1909. Glenn Liebhardt. Jake Thielman was another pitcher in the rotation. Thielman hit .203. He had 12 hits, including 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases in 21 games. Thielman's pitching record was 11-8 with an ERA of 2.33. 18 starts, he completed all 18 with 3 shutouts. Thielman was from St. Cloud, Minnesota. He died in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1928 at age 48. Career record of 30-28 with an ERA of 3.16 and 158 strikeouts. Thielman pitched for the St. Louis Cardinals, Cleveland Naps, and Boston Red Sox between 1905 and 1908. He's a German-American, and his brother Henry was also a Major League Baseball pitcher. Jake Thielman. Otto Hess was another starting pitcher. Hess hit .133. He had 4 hits and 30 at-bats, a stolen base, walked 4 times, struck out 8 times in 19 games. Hess's pitching record was 6-6 with an ERA of 2.89, 14 starts, 7 complete games, and a save. And Hess was with Cleveland from 1902 to 1908. Otto Hess. Heine Berger was another pitcher. Berger hit .179. He had 5 hits and 28 at-bats, including a double, an RBI, in 14 games. Berger's pitching record was 3-3 with an ERA of 2.99, 14 games, 7 starts, 5 complete games, and a shutout. Berger was from LaSalle, Illinois. He died in Lakewood, Ohio in 1954 at age 72. Career average of 32-29 with an ERA of 2.60, 337 strikeouts. And Berger's MLB career was with the Cleveland Naps from 1907 to 1910. They called him, his given name was Charles Carl. He was called Heine, which was a popular nickname for German baseball players early in the 20th century. 22 MLB players had the nickname Heine, including Hall of Famer Heine Manush. However, no player has had that nickname since the Second World War. He's buried in Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland. Heine Berger. Now in a game against the Tigers, Berger loaded the bases, and then the dangerous Sam Crawford came to the plate. Berger called to Lajoie in the dugout, "What do I do now?" And Lajoie said, "You filled him up without any help from me, and you can unload him the same way. Get in there and get to work on him, and quit looking around at me. I'm not a pitcher." Another pitcher was Walter Clarkson. Clarkson hit .036 with a hit, 28 at-bats, 2 RBIs, 10 strikeouts in 17 games. Clarkson's pitching record was 4-6, with an ERA of 1.99, 17 games, 10 starts, 9 complete games, and a shutout. Clarkson was from Cambridge, Massachusetts. He died in Cambridge in 1946 at age 67. Career record of 18-16, ERA of 3.17, and 178 strikeouts. Clarkson pitched for the New York Highlanders and Cleveland Naps between 1904 and 1908. He also attended Harvard, and he played on the Harvard baseball team from 1898 to 1903. Walter Clarkson. Another pitcher was Bill Bernhard. Bernhard hit .200, 3 hits, 15 at-bats, a double in 8 games. His pitching record was 0-4 with an ERA of 3.21, 8 games, 4 starts, and 3 complete games. Bernhard pitched for Cleveland from 1902 to 1907, and this was the end of his MLB career. Bill Bernhard had done some very fine pitching for Cleveland. Bill Bernhard. Earl Moore was another starting pitcher. Moore batted 7 times, did not get a hit. He walked, scored a run, struck out 3 times in 3 games. His pitching record was 1-1 with an ERA of 4.66, 3 games, 2 starts, a complete game, and 19 innings pitched. And Moore pitched for Cleveland from 1901 to 1907. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. However, his MLB career continued until 1914. Now, after the season, the World Series was played, and the Detroit Tigers were the American League champions. So they represented the American League. They were swept by the Chicago Cubs, who were the National League champions, 4-0. So at least the Cubs, who had the best Major League record ever in 1906, they won in 1907. And the Chicago Cubs had the famous double play combination. Ground ball, it would be Joe Tinker would throw to Johnny Evers, who would get the force at second, and throw to first baseman Frank Chance. So the famous double play combination of Tinker to Evers to Chance. So that's the story of the 1907 Cleveland Naps. They had an outstanding year, a year to be proud of. Really something. And God bless the fellows who played for the Cleveland Naps in 1907 and everyone else associated with the team, including the fans, especially the Civil War veterans and the Spanish-American War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp Statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue Electricity, Progressive Field Pals, Quicken Loans Arena enthusiasts, First Energy Stadium friends, Severance Hall stalwarts, Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters and Gladiators rule Cleveland, City of Champions. It's been 70 years since 1948. This is our year. Go Tribe. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.